Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're discussing a watch that embodies two things I love deeply: automobiles and fine watchmaking. We're discussing the Bremont Jaguar Mark II chronograph in stainless steel. You can see and you can purchase this vintage automobile-inspired chronometer-grade chronograph on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Bremont Jaguar Mark II. Now, of course, in 2014, Bremont announced its partnership with Jaguar, and Jaguar, issuing a small number of E-Type lightweight continuation series cars, was matched blow for blow by Bremont, which issued a limited edition Bremont Jaguar watch to accompany each vehicle. In 2015, we began to see Bremont Jaguar watches that we could buy, and this black-dialed chronograph, dubbed Mark II, is a handsome fusion of vintage automotive dashboard imagery with Bremont's famed triptych tripartite case assembly and the value for which the London-based British watchmaker is known. Let's talk about how it fits, because this is the most familiar aspect of the watch for those who know Bremont, and fit comes first. It's a 43mm steel case, which is to say that's 43mm measured across from 9 to 3 absent the crown and the chronograph pushers. It's a thick watch, but it wears thinner than its 17mm. You can see Bremont casebacks are always rather bowl-shaped, so once you've strapped the watch down onto your wrist, it tends to sit a good 3 or 4mm lower, and you can see it has a generously domed sapphire with a somewhat beveled lip to its bezel, so it does slide underneath the suit jacket cuff. Just don't expect it to bury underneath the tightest of dress sleeves. Now, from lug to lug, the watch is actually quite friendly to a smaller wrist. 49.7mm, it's not even 50mm across the wrist. So I would say if you feel that the thickness is daunting, give it a second chance and consider that across the wrist it wears like a 40mm steel watch at under 50mm lug to lug. Now, the timepiece has a very handsome and deluxe perforated leather strap designed to echo the imagery of vintage automotive upholstery, as well, frankly, as some of the Corfam synthetic straps that were equipped on sports chronographs during the late 60s and early 1970s. Make no mistake, though, this is not as synthetic as those were. This is a wonderful calfskin. Blue, thick cut, substantial, with a contrasting stitch, and you can see it has real depth to the perforations because of the bolstering down the center. It also features a natural calfskin on the back, and of course, a simple Bremont pin buckle, familiar to those who know the brand. Ease of adjustment on the fly, polished and satin finished. Handsome. The watch features a case, likewise handsome. Now, Bremont uses its triptych case construction, which includes a combination of breaking apart the actual canister for the movement from the form of the lugs. That's how this 43mm watch can wear like a 40 on the wrist. The lugs are a sort of separate modular teardrop design that are short and bend dramatically around the wrist, such that, again, because there's also no constraint of the strap, you can pull the strap and the lugs flowing down the edge of a smaller wrist, so there's no sense that the lugs are going to flare out over the edge of your wrist awkwardly. If you're borderline to wear, and I would say borderline to wear, this watch is probably about 14.5 centimeters circumference wrist size. This watch looks better than most oversized watches on a small wrist because those lugs do sort of just melt away and taper rather than flare out. If you want to know what I mean by lugs that flare out, here's a great example. Those are what large, strident lugs look like. This is what a teardrop ergonomic solution looks like. Now, the strap also features semi-curved spring bars. They nicely trace the arc of the case. The polished case features the separate lugs and mid-case, but it also features a face-hardened steel that exceeds 1,000 Vickers on its surface, so it's robustly scratch-resistant. You can see this one, despite having no refinishing whatsoever and being a pre-owned watch, has very little marring its surface. It's held up well, and that's sort of the way with Bremont because of the way they treat their steel. It's not as hard as ceramic all the way through, but short of a truly phenomenal insult or blow that would probably take the sapphire with it and probably a chunkier wrist, this watch is going to enjoy long-wearing durability. Now, the dial is all about 1960s Jaguar. The Smith's gauges made for the original Jaguar E-Type look very much like this, and you can see that there's also the appearance of a tachometer in microcosm within the constant seconds at 9 o'clock, like the tach on a vintage Jag. You can also see that both the form of the dial, which features a raised center, a sunken outboard track, and calibration over the majority, but by no means all, of its surface, very much echoes the look of those vintage Jaguar dashboard instruments like the tachs and speedometers. You'll also note that the form of the hands is designed to echo the same, and note the attention to detail with the vintage Jaguar logo at 6 o'clock. I'll move the minute hand out of the way so you can better appreciate. But you can see the vintage Jaguar logo at 6 o'clock. You can also see how the minute hand features the same kind of blacked out midsection that the dashboard instrument would have, so that you only read the outer scale when you're looking at the indicator to the outer scale, whereas the hour is solid white. Also note the cap at center. Just as the original gauges featured a cap over the hands, these feature a coaxial cap to cover their point of origin at the cannon pinion. And yes, attention to detail is paid in full, as there are small luminescent pips down where you would conventionally find 5 and 7 o'clock, just so you can get your bearings and check your references when reading the watch as a timing instrument. Now, of course, it also features a chronograph. So COSC certified automatic chronograph caliber. Yes, it's a bi-register with seconds and minutes. The tri-register would have spoiled the vintage aesthetic of the watch. And there's a beautiful monotone 6 o'clock date disc, and that's how you got to do a date on a chronograph with a vintage character. Plant it at 6 o'clock, anchor the dial, and maintain the symmetry of the watch vertically and horizontally. You'll also note that the dial is signed to London, as Bremont does its assembly, regulation, and final checks for these watches in London. They are bringing back British watchmaking. Not too many watches combine all of this style, plus the horological value of a chronometer certified Valshoe 7750 automatic. So you get the underlying virtues of the 7750, including hacking seconds, a quick set date, approximately 42-hour automatic winding power reserve, tank-tough architecture, and in this case you can actually see that the perforated or punched out steel steering wheel of the original Jaguar E-Type is recapitulated by the winding mass, and you'll see that although the finishing is machine finished, you're getting a very high standard of customization. When this level of engine turning, application of blued screws, use of polish and satin finishes, as well as custom rotor work is applied to a sub $8,000 watch, you're getting far more than you expect in the price range. And with 100 meters water resistance, it's solidly more water resistant than you would expect of a watch that is rather land sports themed. A handsome piece, an evocative piece, nicely informed without being slavish to its inspiration, its point of reference. It works well as a watch, it works well as a chronograph, and it works well as a tribute, a form of automobilia tied to the Jaguar legacy. Handsome and desirable, even if you're not into Jags. This is the Bremont Mark II from the Jaguar line. See it and own it on our website.